The Iowa caucuses for the Democrats are tonight. I'll tell you what exactly a caucus even is in a second. Bloomberg versus Trump. Bloomberg versus everybody. I know you might want to dismiss him. Don't do that just yet. And finally, my favorite ads from the Super Bowl yesterday. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Before we begin on the show tonight, we have to pay homage and say a prayer to Rush Limbaugh. He just announced that he has advanced lung cancer. He's going to be taking some time away. People, there is nobody in the history of the United States of America who has done more to educate while also entertaining people on conservatism, on founding principles. You don't have to be the biggest Rush Limbaugh biggest Rush Limbaugh fan in the world to know that. The man is the greatest of all time when it comes to the punditry stuff. He has no equal. He is the king of it. He has helped generations of people, multiple generations of people, learn about what it means to be a conservative. That is a wonderful thing. Say a prayer for Rush Limbaugh tonight, and I will tell you just personally, working in this field, other people I know who are extremely successful in this field, they look up to the guy like he's a god. You even ask them about it, fellow people in my business, and they'll say, oh, nobody can do that. Nobody can do what Rush Limbaugh can do. So prayers for him, prayers for his family. Let's hope he pushes through. If there's anyone who can, it's Rush. Now, moving on. Iowa caucuses start tonight. Now, before we go any further, I don't want to do this nerd out thing, but as you know, I have almost 3 years of community college credits, so I'm a bit of an education guy. So allow me to be a professor for you here for just a moment. Tonight, there are caucuses in Iowa. It is not a primary necessarily. There are caucuses, and what that means is people are not going to the polls to vote today. There's no voting machines. There's no little checkoff boxes. That's not what happens in the Iowa caucuses. What happens is they gather in a gigantic room, churches, schools, public libraries, things like that. Democrats only. Democrats are gathering in these rooms, and they will separate themselves off into groups. So look, there's the Elizabeth Warren groups. They're having a powwow. There's the Pete Buttigieg group. They're trying to appeal to black voters. There's the Bernie group. They're all getting high, so on and so forth. They're all separated out into groups. And then there are undecided voters. And those undecided voters will bounce from group to group to group for like 30 minutes trying to decide who they're finally going to support in the end. And then they have another round of all this. And that's how it goes. So when you're waiting for results to come in and you're like, what? The caucuses? That is what an actual caucus is. So it's a little bit different. Yes, Iowa will pick their preferred Democrat nominee tonight, but they're doing it a little bit differently. Which brings us to Bernie Sanders. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Long before the results are in, Bernie Sanders is going to win tonight. Bernie Sanders is absolutely going to win Iowa. And you know why? Because people hate bullying. That's why. What do I mean by that? Look, Bernie Sanders, his views on things are outside of the mainstream of America. There's no question about that. Couple things, though. One, he seems authentic to people. Even people who hate Bernie Sanders will say, well, yeah, I hate his communism, but that's who he is. Two, Bernie Sanders, he's kind of likable in that crotchety old man way. He just kind of is. He's kind of likable in the crotchety old man way. Everybody knows an older guy like that yells a little bit too loud. You're ordering food with him at the restaurant. He's yelling at the waiter because he can't hear right, a little bit disheveled. He doesn't come off like a standard politician, and that's appealing. But really, more than anything, the Democrats decided somehow, somebody got in a room and decided that guy can't win. We can't have Bernie Sanders. And so it's taken him from being yet another candidate in the race to somebody with a complete cult-like following. I'm actually not insulting his followers for once. It's somebody with a complete cult-like following because all the pundits are piling on him. Listen to Chris Matthews right here.
What are my thoughts? I'm not happy. I'm not happy with his field. I think they got to find a candidate for president that can beat Trump.
And you don't think anybody in this field
I'm looking. I'm still looking.
Still looking.
What's the problem?
Obvious problems. They're all problems. Bernie Sanders is not going to be president of the United States.
There's been a lot of that. It's not just Chris Matthews. For once, I'm not just picking on him either. It has been the politicians, not only his fellow candidates in the race like Elizabeth Warren, it's been the pundit class, it's been the people who write for a living. There seems to be this joint effort. Even John Kerry's out there chirping at him. It's the Hillary Clinton. There's been this all-in joint effort to try to push Bernie out of the race and bully Bernie out of the race, and people do not respond well to that. People love a fair fight. You could have a boxer who you hate jump in the ring against somebody you love, and you'd be cheering for the boxer you love and get him and get him and get him. But then the boxer you love turns around and calls 5 of his friends in to start pummeling the guy you hate. You would switch sides. It seems unfair. It seems bullying. It's no longer competition. And for that reason, Bernie Sanders is going to win in Iowa tonight. And Katie bar the door when that actually happens, because with all the effort they've put into getting him out, if he wins a state, yes, they'll get on the radio and the TV tomorrow, and they'll take a dump all over Iowa and tell everybody what a horrible, useless, worthless, insignificant state it is anyway. But it does matter. It's going to build momentum for Bernie Sanders. Watch out for Bernie Sanders. And I don't want to be too much of a pessimist here, so don't throw your remote control at the television. You're welcome to write me hate mail, though. I do enjoy that. Don't completely count Bernie Sanders out on the general election. Now, I don't think Donald Trump can be beaten. I believe he is a political phenom. The economy is so strong, it's almost impossible to beat a sitting president. It is impossible to beat one with a good economy. Donald Trump's not going anywhere. But I am not one of these people who thinks Bernie Sanders would have no chance whatsoever in the general election. He has kind of a outsider, D.C. outsider vibe, even though he's been in Washington, D.C. since JFK was there. I mean, he kind of has that vibe, and that is appealing to people. That populist vibe, people like it. All right, that's enough, Bernie. I'll keep you updated on that. Senator Joni Ernst had this to say about Biden and the Democrats and how they handled impeachment, and I thought it was really interesting. She said this, quote, "I think this door of impeachable whatever has been opened. Joe Biden should be very careful what he's asking for, because, you know, we can have a situation where if it should ever be President Biden, that immediately people right the day after he would be elected would be saying, well, we're going to impeach him." And she's 100% right. And not only would people be saying that, they should be saying that. In fact, I have said, I understand it's going to sound crazy and radical, and you're going to be, oh, Jesse, you're a nut job, but you're smart. The Republicans should have already announced that. They should have already announced, we will impeach the next Democrat president of the United States, whether that be 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, and I can't count by fours any higher than that. Whenever we get another Democrat president in the United States of America, we're going to impeach him. And you could tell me, Jesse, that's crazy. Jesse, they'd sound nuts. Yes, they would sound nuts. But do you know why we haven't had a nuclear war, ladies and gentlemen? You remember the Cold War and the nuclear scare and the Soviets and this guy and this guy's... The only thing that held all those crazy, power-hungry people back during that whole affair was the fact that your own country gets nuked too. Mutually assured destruction is not just some buzzword, it's a real thing. And Republicans need to start realizing that. If Democrats are going to impeach a Republican president every time they get their feels hurt after an election, well, then we're all going to play that game, or nobody's going to play that game. Just a thought. Well, let's check in on the meanest person in the race all of a sudden, Joe Biden.
Has it occurred to you that there's a certain irony here, that here the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine?
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Would you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position?
No.
Knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Don't you think that it's just one of those things where people think, well, that seems kind of sleazy. Why would he have that job if not for who his father was?
Because he's a very bright guy.
I guess the question I'm kind of asking is, was it right?
His appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he said he regretted having done it.
Yeah.
Speaks for himself. He's a grown man.
You going to predict a win tomorrow night?
I don't predict wins because I'm superstitious, but I predict we'll do very well.
All right. What? Who said that? You saying that? Joe Biden, look, Donald Trump is probably the best major politician I've ever seen in my life at making people angry. Ted Cruz is another one of these guys. He's really, really, really great at it. Adam Schiff is actually really good at this. There are some people who just have this ability to make others angry. I recognize that ability in others because I have it myself. If Donald Trump's that good at making everybody insane with rage, and Joe Biden is screaming at reporters and he's screaming at supporters already during the primary, how well do you think he's going to do when Donald Trump starts needling him? Do you think President Donald Trump is kicked back, watching the TV, watching Joe Biden lose his mind every time somebody brings up Hunter Biden and saying to himself, oh, I better not bring that up? Or do you think Donald Trump is saying, oh, I'm going to needle him with that? Yeah, me too. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Coming up next, we have the Dean of Business at Liberty University and former Congressman Dave Bratt. But first, betdsi.com/Jesse. I know many of you were there yesterday betting on the Super Bowl because I was too. Oh, did I mention the fact that they have a mobile app as well, and a mobile app that actually works, not one where you need glasses, you can't quite figure it out, and you're, oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, go make a deposit. Make a deposit. If you use the promo code Jesse120, again, Jesse120, it's right there at the bottom of your screen, you get a matching 120%. 120% matching is free money. And you don't just have to bet on football. Football season's gone. We got baseball season coming, NHL, UFC, hockey. You can bet politics. Get there now. Right now and bet on the Iowa Caucuses. Get there, make a deposit, make your bets now at betdsi.com/Jesse. betdsi.com/Jesse. And I'm sad to say this, I have now discovered you can also bet on reality television at betdsi.com/Jesse because I may or may not have been forced to watch The Bachelor. Go there. Use promo code Jesse120. Start betting. Start winning. Get your money fast. betdsi.com. Joining me now, this is a treat for us every time he comes on, former Congressman and current Dean of Business at Liberty University, one of the few places you can still send your kids that's sane. Dave Bratt joins me. Congressman, first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty on a couple other things, I have some radical ideas you're going to hate. Let me ask you about Iowa. What does it actually mean? Obviously, you're a lot more experienced at this than I am and than most of the viewers are. Is this huge for momentum? In the long run, does it really not mean anything? And obviously, I'm asking about the Democrat caucuses tonight.
Yeah, well, I think you know as much as I do. But yeah, my opinion, it's a good leading indicator. And I think it's a good proxy for the states that are going to matter at the end of the run up there in the Midwest, right? So when you do Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and you know those, and Wisconsin, if I didn't say that, those are the states that are going to matter in the end. And so Iowa, Iowa nice, the small family church, but a lot of the forgotten men and women that are left behind between the coastal elites. And they're upset, right? The whole Midwest is. They know it's pay to play in D.C. And so that's, Bernie's trending on the left on a populist message, and President Trump is trending on the Republican side. And so it'll be an interesting battle. But I think Iowa nice is going to choose capitalism over socialism. So in the end, I think we're good.
I don't pretend to know how the powers that be at the head of the Democrat Party and their big shot donors, I don't pretend to know how those people think. I've never been involved in those circles on that side. But can you explain to me this complete universal disdain of Bernie Sanders? The past 2 weeks, I've never seen anything like this from a major party. All their pundits, the newspapers, the congressmen themselves, senators, presidential candidates, they have locked arms and decided that Bernie Sanders is a cancer that has to be eradicated. What is their problem with him? His message is not that much different than theirs.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The answer is, and I've gotten on my own side on the same issue, but the answer to the question is anything that starts with a T up in D.C., and the key word is trillion. So if you get near any of the policies that are in the trillion range, you're going to be in deep trouble. So when it came to the healthcare vote, I know on the Republicans promised for 7 years to repeal it. That's $1 trillion issue. It didn't get repealed because there are too much special interests, right? So Bernie's getting near the $1 trillion issues on a whole host of issues. Education's in the trillion range, healthcare's in the trillion range, and the Wall Street and the financial flows internationally are in the tens of trillions of dollars that he's going to threaten. And so those folks get on the phone. And I think the billionaire class is kind of happy with the infighting across party lines. It makes it look like, hey, there's a fight going on here. There's two contested philosophies. But if you've noticed, nothing's changed, right? You got $1 trillion deficit every year. The deep state's still in charge, and they're the deep state. And so that's the answer, right? Unfortunately, it's the big money does. And the evidence is you never heard about the lobbyists on healthcare, right? So that's 20% of the economy. And you never heard about any of the lobbyists or anything. But we promised for 7 years to repeal. We didn't repeal. And that's pretty interesting.
Congressman, can you lay out for me what that means when it comes to lobbyists? I mean, you hear this all the time. You see it at I'm sure you saw it at the Tea Parties when you were there, and you see people write emails and phone calls, and they're on social media. We have to get the lobbyists out, and lobbyists this and lobbyists that. What exactly is one of these lobbyist people, and how do they affect votes? How do they affect legislation at all?
Yeah, well, and that's a great question, and I'm being a little short with hanging it. I don't mean it's the lobbyist's fault, right? Yeah. The lobbyist is just the person there that is representing the $1 trillion interest. And so, say I'm in Virginia or any state there is, if you get too close to talking about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, healthcare costs, hospitals, their payment plans, prescription drug premium plans that are all in the budget, right? It's all regulated. They're given certain price mechanisms, especially for senior citizens, et cetera. If you get too close to that, all what breaks loose on you as a politician. And that's why the swamp is the swamp, and that's why you have $1 trillion deficit every year, because no one will get near it. I went up there, tried to get near it, and you get no money, you get no committee assignments, et cetera. And it's all testable, right? Everything I'm saying is perfectly testable. And I wish social scientists would spend more time on this than following all the hype.
Who do you like in Iowa? I will tell you, in full disclosure, opening segment, I say Bernie wins Iowa because I think people hate bullying. And look, as much as people dislike Bernie's policies, I think Bernie's policies are crazy. I think he destroyed the country. Nevertheless, I don't like watching everybody pile on it. It goes from being politics as usual to, hey, you're beating up the old guy. And I think it pushes him over the top. Who do you like?
Yeah, I agree with your analysis. And I think when that poll all of a sudden went disappearing, right? They said the major Iowa poll isn't going to be. I think that's a little evidence that you're correct, because I think the poll showed that Bernie's up, and that does, people like to vote for a winner, and so that's worth a few points maybe, and they knew that.
Senator Joni Ernst, who I don't know, came out and said that Joe Biden might just go ahead and be impeached. Maybe someone should announce it. And I tell you, I understand this is radical. I don't expect people to sign on to this. I have long thought Republicans should just go ahead and announce that they are going to preemptively impeach the next Democrat president, whenever that may be. And I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm not just trying to be petty. But if we're going to do this thing where we just impeach anybody we don't like, then they need to know that works both ways. I mean, the reason we've never had a nuclear war is we all have them now.
Right. No, I agree. And I wouldn't frame it exactly that way, but I would say we're not going to pass a budget until Adam Schiff comes before the Senate. Right. We're not going to we're going to fight back. Our side never fights. And I think that's what you're really getting at is, we had the fine gentlemen, Herbert Bush and Bush Jr. and Romney and all these fine folks who played by the rules and were civil and all these things you're supposed to be. And the Democrats beat them up. They came after him like crazy. And now finally we've got someone who's fighting for the forgotten men and women across the country. And the Democrats do not like it. And they're not used to it. and they've met their own match, and I think they're getting outmatched. And so I agree with you. We have to fight. We didn't fight when we had the House and the Senate and the presidency. We did not achieve nearly enough because we didn't go hard at it, and we should have.
What's better about being a dean of business at Liberty University than it is being a big shot on Capitol Hill? I realize you're a big shot on campus now, but you're not a congressman anymore. Which one's better?
Oh, this is way better. I get family time, community time, church time, academic time. I'm a liberal arts guy, and I taught economics and ethics for 20 years, loved it. And being at Liberty, you're right. This is one of the few places we connect all the founding principles, the Judeo-Christian tradition, the Constitution, free markets, every day in every class. And that's not happening across America. So I'm blessed to be here. I love it here at Liberty. And the students are wonderful. Everybody should reach out and try to hire and grab our interns and work with us in every way possible. And I'll help you do that.
Students are wonderful, but I've been told by several people that this next generation is a disaster and they have no chance whatsoever. Is that not the case?
No, there's still hope. And at Liberty, I tell them the entrepreneurial path is very important. If you don't want to be under someone's rule or you don't like what's going on out there, well, start your own firm and get yourself financially independent as soon as you can. And that's still possible, but the young folk, they have to fight a little harder, especially here in Virginia. The regulatory state's going to grow. Taxes are going to go up through the roof next year because we lost all three of the statewide offices in Virginia. And they're following the socialist playbook, right? The free speech on campus is under attack. The gun grab is happening. Taxes are going to go up. And they promise you nirvana in a few years, and you end up with Venezuela instead of nirvana. And that's my forecast.
Let's hope not. Let's hope we can save that state because everybody loves Virginia, or at least they should, the birthplace of freedom.
Yep.
Congressman Dave Brat, Dean of Business at Liberty, thank you so much for giving us some time again today, sir.
Awesome. Great to be with you as always. Thank you.
Be good. All right. Bloomberg. He's just a nothing, right? Hold off on that. I'll explain in a second. Well, the Super Bowl was yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, and allow me to announce a big congrats to the Golden State Warriors for pulling that out. I'm just kidding. It was the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Warriors play basketball. What do you think? I'm some nerd. You guys are so gullible. Anyway, of course, the national anthem is always going to be the focus of something at the Super Bowl, especially now because everybody has to kneel or make a statement out of it or whatnot. Well, the NFL seems to have cracked down on that and figured things out. There's a reason the players weren't kneeling this year. It's the only thing that hurt NFL ratings. It's probably best if you don't take a big steaming dump on the American flag right before you play a game where you act like as American as apple pie. Nevertheless, you can't do anything about the people in the stands. And we have Jay-Z and Beyonce, who seem to be the only two people in the stadium didn't think the national anthem was worthy of getting off your tuchus yesterday. Apparently, this is supposed to be some statement about the injustice of America and blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm not going to spend too long on this. I will just say I find it to be extremely bizarre when the most successful, wealthy people in our society find a way to dump on it. Doesn't that seem odd to you? Don't you ever have a moment, especially you're Jay-Z and Beyonce. You're easily, well, top 5 most famous couple in all of the world. I mean, heck, you could probably put them top 3. You exist on private jets. You exist on yachts. Neither of you grew up in a life of privilege. You grew up very, very rough, and now you swim in champagne and diamonds. What exactly is your problem again? I mean, country seems to have worked out all right for you. I just don't understand that way of thinking. But ladies and gentlemen, here's what it is. Be very, very careful how you raise your children. So much of this comes back to how people are raised with the values of gratefulness or values of bitterness you put into your kids. Make sure you are raising your kids to be grateful and to think for themselves. The only way you can live a life of luxury like that and still hate the place that allowed you the opportunity to do it is if somebody very early on guided you in that direction. That's a lifetime of bitterness, people. So actually, I kind of feel sorry for him. I don't like the music anyway. Now, President Trump on Hannity, never one to stick with punching above the belt, decided to take a little shot at Mike Bloomberg, who appears to be about 5'4".
Michael Bloomberg.
Very little. I just think of little. You know, now he wants a box for the debates to stand on. Okay, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. You could be short. Why should he get a box to stand on, okay? He wants a box for the debates. Why should he be entitled to that? Really? Then does that mean everyone else gets a box?
I guess if they want one, we'll have to
Well, the
negotiate
other thing, it's
boxes.
very interesting. Cory Booker and all these people couldn't get any of the things that Bloomberg's getting now. I think it's very unfair for the Democrats, but I would love to run against Bloomberg. I would love it.
That's such a passive-aggressive, subtle jab. I mean, it's okay to be short. I mean, it's fine if he's like the size of my trash can. I don't see why that's a big deal. By the way, it is a big deal. Now, people can say it doesn't matter whatsoever. There is this part of your psychology where things matter to you, but the society you live in, the culture you live in, won't let you say it. And let me just explain something, people. It matters if somebody's too short. Look at the history of the presidents of the United States of America, especially during the television era. Go down and look through their heights. Trump, Obama, Bush, just go down the list, JFK, all of them. Do you see anybody out there like Mike Bloomberg whose legs are moving like this as he walks? No, you don't. Because there's something about being tall. Study after study shows you make more money when you're tall. You get promoted more. Look, life's better when you're tall. I know, I'm tall. Look how amazing I am. And I don't think the American people will choose a short president. That sounds petty and small and ridiculous, and you're going to roll your eyes at it. The image of Donald Trump on stage looking down like this at Mike Bloomberg matters. It does matter. No, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you're short. Yeah, you have a disability, but you're not a bad person. I'm not saying that at all. But it does matter, and it will matter for elections. It mattered when Hillary Clinton kept coughing during the presidential election. It mattered when she passed out and had to be chucked in the back of a van like an old piece of furniture. People said it didn't matter. They said you shouldn't care about that. It put an image in the minds of Americans that they did not want that person as commander-in-chief, and nobody's voting for Napoleon anymore. Now, changing gears. As I've said, President Donald Trump is going to get 15% of the black vote in the 2020 election, and that is really, in the long run, what sinks the Democrat Party. You know why Barack Obama got elected president twice? Because he got 98% of the black vote. It is an important voting bloc for the Democrat Party. It has been a reliable voting bloc for the Democrat Party. And when you steal their most reliable constituency from them, it handicaps them. They don't know what to do. You all remember prison reform, right? President Trump springing people from jail, nonviolent offenders, long before their sentence is finished. Now, let's be honest. We don't know how prison reform is going to work out, and we won't know for years. We have to see whether these people get back on the streets and start committing crimes again and how that all ends up. But I do know this, ladies and gentlemen, from a pure political point of view, this has been such a home run for him, especially within the black community. All the people I talk to say, man, you get somebody private and they'll tell you they think Trump's kind of freaking awesome. So I want you to put yourself in the mind as I'm about to play you this Trump ad from the Super Bowl yesterday. Masterful ad. And I want you to put yourself in the mind of a black woman. Let's say you're a black woman who's always voted Democrat. You're watching the Super Bowl and this ad comes on. Do you think maybe this moves you a little bit?
I'm free to hug my family. I'm free to start over. This is the greatest day of my life. My heart is just bursting with gratitude. I want to thank President Donald John Trump. Woo! Thank you.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
People, you don't have to love prison reform. You don't have to love President Donald Trump. That ad is masterful. Whoever's running his campaign team is doing a really good job. And if he's going to keep doing things like that, Democrats are in deep trouble in 2020. Now, shifting gears, I'm actually going to pay a compliment to a Democrat for once. Mike Bloomberg ran an ad yesterday during the Super Bowl, and I want you to do what you just did, only put yourself in the mind of a Democrat voter. Maybe you're undecided right now. That's how you win primaries out there. No, you're not going to agree with the gun-grabbing BS content of this ad. You're just not. But this ad from Mike Bloomberg that he paid a fortune to have run during the most watched television show in the world, it's a good ad.
George started playing football when he was 4 years old. He would wake up every Saturday ready for the game. That became our life. He had aspirations about going to the NFL. On a Friday morning, George was shot. George didn't survive. I just kept saying, you cannot tell me that the child that I gave birth to is no longer here. Lives are being lost every day. It is a national crisis. I heard Mike Bloomberg speak. He's been in this fight for so long, he heard mothers crying, so he started fighting. When I heard Mike was stepping into the ring, I thought, now we have a dog in the fight. I know Mike is not afraid of the gun lobby. They're scared of him, and they should be. Mike's fighting for every child because you have a right to live. No one has a right to take your hopes and dreams.
Do you think that ad might be effective with those same mothers? That's a really, really, really well done ad. And look, I make fun of Bloomberg because he's short. I'm always going to do that. Mike Bloomberg is going to make noise in this Democrat primary, people. And don't dismiss that at all. And don't dismiss the power of ads like that. And don't dismiss money. You turn on any television set, Mike Bloomberg is running ads. During the biggest games, the most expensive ads you can buy, Mike Bloomberg is running them. And you can whine all day long, and people love doing this. I hate money in politics. Let's get money out of politics. That's fine. That's a pie-in-the-sky dream. It'll never happen. But money matters, and that's why money matters. It is effective to run television ads. Do you think all those corporations you know and love and patronize, do you think they spend tens of millions of dollars on television every single year because it doesn't work? People, advertising works. Mike Bloomberg is going to make noise just by the sheer force of his income. The guy has so much money, he's dumping it into the race. Whether or not he wins the Democrat primary, I don't know, but he's going to make noise in it, and he's going to have influence in who the next Democrat president is whenever that day finally comes along. All right, I had a couple ads that I really, really loved during the Super Bowl. I'm going to play them for you with my amazing analysis later. Hang on. Joining me now is a lady who needs no introduction whatsoever. Why? Because you've seen her on your television set. You've heard her sing. You definitely have seen her dresses. Her name is Joy Villa. She's a conservative activist and, more importantly, or I don't know if she'd call it more importantly, a recording artist. Joy, which one's more important?
You know, they're both important to me. I mean, I'm an artist in my heart of hearts, but my voice is used not just for music and acting, but my political affiliations as well. My support, this president, this administration.
Joy, let's tackle the big thing first. Everybody watched the Super Bowl last night. At least every sane person I know watched the Super Bowl. I mean, my wife watched for the halftime show. Today, the halftime show's been all anybody's yelling about. Some people say it was great. Some people say it wasn't. I say that's what those two recording artists have done forever. If you don't like it, change the channel. What say you?
I did not watch the Super Bowl, so I'm not one of the sane people. I know I'm not a big fan of football. I'm not a big fan of the Super Bowl particularly. I think it's really fun. I usually watch the halftime show, but increasingly they get more and more political. So I don't even know what's happening on it, but I can tell you that Hollywood and the Super Bowl and all of these things are just, they're fighting with each other because we have conservatives that live in middle America, which support NASCAR, the Super Bowl, right? Football, who are watching these games, and then they keep increasingly making them more political. They're taking prayer out. You can't kneel for prayer, but you can kneel for for Black Lives Matter. I mean, all of these things. So I don't know what went down, but I'm not surprised if something did.
Well, what went down was Shakira and J-Lo doing what they do, wearing what they normally wear. And let me ask you this. I always say this, that I feel like the most important thing we as conservatives have lost is the education system. Obviously, we're sending our young people off to school, and we've lost that portion of it. It's a big thing. But the thing that disappoints me most is the music industry, because I'm used to the music industry being the rebels. At least that's how it was when I grew up. They're the counterculture ones who tell everybody, screw off. But there's you, and there's not that many others who don't sound like lemmings. They all say the same thing now. Where are my rebels out there?
And conservatives are the rebels now, Jesse. It's funny because it used to be in the 60s, we had the counterculture was more liberalism. And, in the 80s even, I love Ronald Reagan, but we did have this burn the CDs, NWA, don't cuss, all this sort of like clutch my pearls, oh no, republicanism. That's not me. That's not the people like me. I want it loud. I want it fast. I want it in my face. I want support for babies who are the unborn. I want support for my president. I want support for the troops. I want support in the education system for different thoughts, different thinking. I want us to build the wall. I want us to love our country again and say, hey, we're born here or we immigrate here. This is our country, period. And Trump had that, very ballsy conservatism. And that's why I'm a Trumplican, really, because I don't think I would have become a Republican if it wasn't for this president. And that's what we need in society right now. Yes, I do it. Very few others do, but I think that's going to change in 2020. I'm hoping we reelect him with a landslide and more people come out strong.
Not only do you do it loudly. And if my guys can pull up, a picture or two of you doing it with your dresses, you're famous for them now. Everybody's seen them. You show up on the red carpet. Everyone else is in their, weirdo thing, and you're in their, as patriotic as it comes. I remember your wall dress, looking like $1 million. Do you get flack for that when you're on the red carpet? Do they just kind of let you go? How are you received on the red carpet at those things?
Oh, I'll tell you, they get more and more feisty every year. The photographers, when I wore my Build the Wall dress at last year's Grammys, I've worn my pro-life, choose life dress at the Grammys, Make America Great Again at the Grammys, a see-through wall dress, which was just for fun at the Grammys. And then I've done, F Planned Parenthood at the unplanned red carpet. I've done pro-life is pro-woman at the Emmys red carpet. This is what I do now. I'll tell you, the press is a little bit more respectful. It's sort of like they know this is what Joy Villa does. They report it. In fact, Variety magazine said it would not be the Grammys without Joy Villa wearing a pro-Trump gown, which is like, whoa, okay, so you're not going to try to be sly and slick and say this wannabe or who does she think she is? It's now my 6th year at the Grammys, my 4th year wearing something political. So I think they're just accepting it. But they hate on me. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat back there. It's a new cat.
I can hear it.
He's just meowing. Ignore the cat in the background. But I'll tell you, the photographers at the Grammys are very much like my cat, meowing at me, screaming at me, saying, you're wrong, F Trump. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're, believing in. He's not going to get reelected, all sorts of things like that. So the photographers are hired there specifically to shoot the stars. That would include me. And yet they're yelling obscenities at me. That started last year. Now there is a woman also who was on in the Grammys ceremony, in the event, the after party actually. She's from Australia. She screamed in my face. She goes, a Trump supporter? I said, yes. She said, my country's on fire because of you. She's from Australia.
Yes, the arsonists who set the fire in Australia, they all were Donald Trump fans as well.
I said that has nothing to do with me. She goes, it's because of you, right-wing politics, right-wing climate deniers. And I said, you know what? It was arsonists, just like we know, sane people know that, not the insane. And I said, I'm sorry, you can't handle the truth. And she just cussed at me and walked away.
Joy, have you ran into any brick walls, speaking of walls, in your career for your political beliefs? It can't be easy. I mean, I have some friends in that industry, and I'll tell you, it's mainly actors and actresses, and they have secret codes for saying they're Republican because they're so worried about getting work, and people have to put food on the table. I'm sure that you've had some blowback.
Oh, yeah. I have death threats against my life. I mean, online, and I've had people come up to me and say, someone should take care of you, and infer that someone should kill me. I get a lot of hate. I get a lot of racist, misogynistic comments rape threats, especially because I'm pro-life, it just breaks my heart to know people out there don't want a woman of color in Hollywood to speak up, yet they're saying they want that. But when it's conservative values, pro-life values, pro-family, pro-religious freedom values, pro-gun, pro-Trump, they don't want that, you know? And it's a sad thing. I've been told I've been blacklisted from several places, but I'm still here. And I probably have lost a lot of roles and a lot of gigs, but I get so much. I have so many supporters. I call them my joy tribe. And they stick with me, whether it's because they love my music or they love that I'm going to be starring in a new movie called The Contrast. And it's actually created by a Republican, Chris Johnson. And he's out. We're out Republican. I never thought we'd have to be like, I'm out as a Republican. You know, this is the day we live in. And it's a romantic comedy coming out at the end of this year or early next year. And so people love my art. Some people say, I don't like your views, but I support you. I like your music. I don't like your politics. That's fine. And others say, I love your politics. That's why I support you. I don't like your music or whatever. But there are a huge number of haters that say you should never work in Hollywood. Stop inviting her to the Grammys. They report my pictures no matter what. I mean, there's definitely this hate group against conservatives being out and proud.
Joy Villa, that was outstanding. I will be seeing you soon. I also am out as a Republican. You have a good one.
Yes. Yes, the best. That's why you're so handsome. That's why I'm so beautiful. We're conservatives.
We do it right.
That's right.
All right. We're not finished yet. We have, well, you're going to want to stick around and see my favorite ads. Hang on. Well, I love Super Bowl ads because people actually put an effort into them, they put money into them, and they hire good writers for them. So I wanted to play you my two favorite. Now, I have to admit, before I play you this first one, I am as biased as they come because I am the biggest Bill Murray fan in the world. The guy has not only been a college or a comedy legend for decades, he is well known to be a decent, fun, awesome human being. There are stories out there all over the place. Someone will just run into him at a bowling alley with a group of friends, and he'll just go bowl with them for a while. He's just an absolute nut. But the guy is a comedic genius. So when I saw he was doing a Groundhog Day ad for Jeep, I tuned in, and it did not disappoint.
Okay, campers, rise and shine. It's Groundhog Day. And don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there today.
Phil? Hey, Phil!
No, not you.
It's me, Nan Ryerson!
Okay, little fella, good job. That's different. Good job.
Hey! He got the groundhog! Phil?
Hey, you're gonna freeze to death. Who cares? See you tomorrow. Don't say your hair's too long. Safety first.
Yeah! He got the groundhog! Phil!
It's not personal. It's just a game. Not a bad day, huh? I don't know where we parked. I was following you.
That guy, as good as it gets. 60 seconds makes you laugh 10 times. As good as it gets. Finally, look, I have to admit, I'm starting to sound like an old person. I realize that we have a younger audience on the show, and a lot of that's just because I'm so handsome. But the truth of the matter is, I forget my internet passwords. And then you don't want to put them on a computer because then apparently all these little nerds can log into your computer and get them. So I have to pull out like a pen or a pencil and I write them down, and they have 8,000 websites and 8,000 different accounts, and you try to log in and then eventually they lock you out. And so when I saw this account yesterday, you may not like it if you are on the younger side. I thought it was freaking hysterical because daggone, it's true.
Please, can we go back? I have money. I can pay you. Oh. Wait. Is that where we're going? I mean, that place looks amazing. Yeah. Whew. I must think I'm such a baby. I don't know. Oh, scrambles. Oh, no. The fish. Okay, Miss Bigley. Miss B. Why do you... Dolphin trainer. I didn't want to be a dolphin trainer. Stop doing that. You go back. No, I'm sorry.
Dashlane. 100% true. All right, we're going to do this all again tomorrow. We'll have some more fun. See you then.